Hello everyone and welcome to Scream Stream, where every week I scour the web and the various streaming services to bring you the best and the worst of digital horror so you don't have to. I'm your host, James Gass. Scream Stream is listener supported, and you can support the show financially over at patreon.com/screamstream. And I do want you to know how important your support is. Whether it's financial support through Patreon or just sharing it with your friends and family, you encourage me to keep doing this show, and I really appreciate that. The show is growing just over the past 2 episodes. I've seen some good growth, so it looks like you're enjoying the show. I really hope you are. If you'd like to keep up with me outside of the podcast, you can do so over at twitter.com/JamesGass, and check out my Instagram page over at instagram.com/JamesGass. I post all kinds of stuff over there. And join us over there. You can join the conversation, suggest movies to review, talk with us, share whatever you want to share about horror. If you see a really cool news story, you can post it there. Just join the conversation, join the community over at facebook.com/groups/ScreamPod. And you can also email me with comments and suggestions over at screamstreamcast@gmail.com. So for this week's episode, I have my review of Cult of Chucky. And I also have some news related to the Halloween reboot and a few other things that you might find interesting that I found interesting enough to share with you on the show. So let's get into Cult of Chucky. So this was written and directed by Don Mancini, who also wrote all the Child's Play films, but he only directed the last 3. So he directed Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, and Cult of Chucky. And the film actually has several pretty big characters. We have Alex Vincent, who plays Andy Barclay, who also played Andy in the original Child's Play. Of course, we have Brad Dourif, who has played the voice of Chucky in all 7 films. His daughter Fiona Dourif, who plays Nica, and she reprises her role from Curse of Chucky. And then we also have some newcomers. Michael Theriault plays Dr. Foley. Zach Santiago plays Nurse Carlos. Adam Hertig plays Michael. And Grace Lynn Kung plays Claire. And, of course, Jennifer Tilly is back as Tiffany Valentine. And Elizabeth Rosen plays Madeline. And for a very brief plot synopsis, Chucky returns to terrorize his human victim Nica. Meanwhile, the killer doll has some scores to settle with his old enemies with the help of his former wife. This is a really bad plot synopsis that I found on IMDb. So essentially, if you haven't seen Curse of Chucky, you'll be kind of lost. The main character from Curse of Chucky is now in this one. She's in a mental institution, and Chucky finds his way in, and typical Chucky stuff ensues. So let me start off with acting. We open the film with a scene with Alex Vincent, Andy Barclay, and I guess he found this girl on online dating or something, Rachel. The worst actors in the film. Absolutely worst actors in the film. Rachel only has 1 scene, thankfully, and she is played by Allison Dawn Doiron. And both actors were just really awkward together. It didn't come off very well on screen. They had just cheesy lines. I don't know, the whole thing was just weird. It felt like a B movie. So right off the bat, I was kind of disappointed. And then even when Alex Vincent had scenes by himself, just wasn't very good. I just don't think he's a good actor. I'm sorry. I feel bad for saying that. I just don't. I don't think he's a good actor. However, the rest of the cast in this film were great. Brad Dourif, as always, was good. Fiona Dourif was very believable as Nica. And Adam Hertig, I've never seen this guy, never heard of him, but he did a really good job with his character. I was really impressed. And then Elizabeth Rosen did a great job. And of course, Jennifer Tilly, as always, doing really good with Tiffany Valentine. So there's the acting. Pretty good for the most part across the board, with the exception of Alex Vincent, I hate to say it, he just, as an adult, he's not a good actor. I'm sorry. So let's get on with the story. The story was, I'll put it to you like this. After watching Curse of Chucky and the seriousness of that film and the tension that was brought to that film, the suspense, the tone, it was a great movie. I thought it was really good. It was a throwback to the original Child's Play, where the film was, most of it took place in the dark, and there were all these awesome scenes of just Chucky's feet running and very suspenseful moments in that film. And I was hoping that would translate or carry over into this film, and unfortunately it doesn't. The story was a little wonky for me. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. I felt like it was very convoluted. And I really don't want to give anything away here, but at one point I was just like, wait, what is happening? How is this happening? This makes no sense. So yeah, it was a very convoluted story. And it kind of just turned into a bunch of stuff happens. And I was really disappointed. It just wasn't compelling enough. And the other issue I had with the film was it kind of went back to just being a campy Chucky movie, which really bothered me because Curse of Chucky was so good. As a horror film, it was good. As a supernatural thriller kind of slasher film, it was good. But Cult of Chucky it fell apart. It started off pretty strong with once we get past that initial scene and we get actually into the hospital, like the next 15 minutes after that were really good, and then it just started to fall apart slowly, and it kind of turned into a parody of itself, and that really disappointed me. I wanted to love this film so much, but I guess at the same time, if you like the Chucky films like Seed of Chucky or The Bride of Chucky, or even like Child's Play 3. If you like that campiness, you're probably going to like this one. So I'm kind of torn between it. I like it because it is kind of campy, but I hate it because I expected it to be like Curse of Chucky. So I'm real torn. Overall, is it a good film? Not really. It's just, the only saving grace this film really has are its actors. But the story and the plot is just horrible. Scenery was really weird. Like everything, like the whole movie was just like white. Because it was in the hospital in the wintertime. So white was like a recurring theme in the film. I thought that was really unsettling, which I guess that did a good job. So aesthetically, it did its job at making you feel unsettled, it made you feel uncomfortable. So that way, in that sort of sense, it did a good job. Tension, there wasn't so much tension. There were a couple really cool death scenes, though. So that's a positive. The death scenes were really good. And they were fairly creative. But I have to say, after going through our Saw marathon, which we picked back up this weekend, it's hard to top death scenes now, because I think the Saw films have like the best deaths in horror films. I hate to say it, but it's true. So, yeah, story, not so much. Aesthetically, it did pretty good. Death scenes, not too shabby. Overall, would I recommend the film? Not really. I think you can probably skip this one, and I believe that's the first time I've ever said that. Normally I say, if you're bored, check it out. But no, there's nothing here, really. There's just kind of meh. I don't really see a need to watch it. It has a 5.3 currently on IMDb. 5.3 out of 10. Yeah, okay, maybe. I'd probably give it like a more closer to like a 5. And I think on Rotten Tomatoes, the last thing I saw was it had like an 86. I'm not sure how. Let's see what the updated score says. Yeah, so the critics on Rotten Tomatoes have given it an 86, That's 14 reviews, professional reviews. However, the audience score has given it a 53% out of 947. So the average rating is 3.3 out of 5. That's probably about right. I mean, if you're a huge Chucky fan, I guess you would watch it. If you're not, you can skip it. It's really not worth all that time to sit through. So there is my review of Cult of Chucky. I wanted to like it. It was just a big disappointment. So there. All right, let's move on to something a little more exciting, some news. And we have some new news on the Halloween home front. And this is the reboot that's being done by Danny McBride and David Gordon Green. Both of these guys are writing it, and David Gordon Green is directing it. Well, it seems, according to an interview of John Carpenter, the new film is actually going to be a direct sequel of the original film, and it will probably wipe out the entire storyline. And he alluded to the fact that Laurie Strode will not be Michael Myers' sister. So this kind of changes everything. I don't know how I feel about that. But he did say that he's read the script and it looks like a fun movie, and it's got his approval. So if he's excited about it, I think we should be excited about it too. It could be really interesting. Completely new take on the entire Michael Myers mythos and that whole universe there. Because originally it was going to be a direct sequel to Halloween 2, but now it is going to be a direct sequel to Halloween 1, wipe out the storyline, start with a fresh slate, and Laurie Strode is not going to be Michael Myers' sister. And then also, recently, like this just was announced like a day ago, John Carpenter will be doing the original score for the film, and he's going to write a new theme song. So that should be really exciting. This, when I first heard about this, and I heard that Danny McBride was attached to it, I was really on the fence about it because he's more of a comedy guy. He's done Vice Principals, and he's done a few other things. Pineapple Express. He does comedies, and to see him move into horror is a little weird for me. I wasn't sure how I was going to respond or how I was going to feel about this, but it sounds like Halloween is shaping up to be a really cool reboot. And if John Carpenter is on board and he likes it, because he didn't like Rob Zombie's version, I liked it. He didn't really approve of it. So, but if he approves of this one, we should be in for a really nice treat. So, and some other cool little tidbits here. Vincent Price, I had no idea, he did a cookbook, and now it has a new expanded edition. Kala Editions is reprinting for an expanded edition of his fourth book, Cooking Price-Wise, that will include new contributions from his daughter Victoria as well as his son VB. There will also be baking recipes from Vincent's grandmother, who apparently was the inventor of baking powder. I had no idea. So it's really, really interesting. But I will include links to all the stories on the show notes page, which you will be able to find over at screenpod.com/podcast/3, the number 3. And here you'll see Vincent Price doing like a cooking segment on the Johnny Carson show, which was really interesting. And it's about a 20-minute video. It was really cool to watch. And also, Rue Morgue and Horror Babble are doing a limited audiobook of Clive Barker's The Midnight Meat Train. And it took me a little while to find this, but the article is from Dread Central that I found, and what they are doing is just doing a special reading, and you can find the videos on YouTube, and they will be up they're up now, and they will be up through December the 6th, so you'll be able to go and listen to them for free on YouTube. I will include the link to the first video, part 1, in the show notes, so be sure to go and check that out. And for my last bit of news, Stephen King, yet again, is rolling in the dough. We now have a first look teaser for the Hulu original Castle Rock. And this is going to be an anthology series. And they put up the teaser trailer, and it looks really interesting. It's got some really cool cinematography. It looks similar to like a Stranger Things kind of style. But it looks really cool. And it's an anthology series, which I love TV shows that are done in an anthology style. I am currently watching, on a side note, Hammer House of Horror on Shudder. And it was a British series that was aired back in the 80s, and I think there's only like maybe 10 episodes, I think, or fewer than that, but they're an hour long. So I've been watching that. But yeah, I do like anthology series, especially this one from Stephen King looks really good. I don't know what the stories are. They don't really say that, but they do give you some really cool clips. So again, go and check out the trailer. It looks like it's going to be a really cool show. And finally, what's new to stream? So I've been trying to stick with films that you don't actually have to pay extra for other than the subscriptions. I will add rentals if you like, though. So like when new films come available on like Amazon that you have to, rent to stream. If you want me to include those, I will. But for right now, I just figured I would try to, include only those that you don't actually have to pay extra for. So on Amazon, Friday the 13th, Lore was released, and Lore started out as a podcast a couple years ago, and it's still going. If you haven't listened to Lore, highly recommend it. It is a great show. It is done by Aaron Mahnke, and he goes into like each episode like a deep dive into some folklore story. And each episode is only about 20 minutes long. I do recommend that you go and check that out. And on Shudder, we have Found Footage 3D, the 2D version, is out. And I saw the trailer for this. I've never heard of it, but I saw the trailer, and it actually looks pretty funny. So I'm going to check that out. I am going to be doing a review of it. I have to look at the calendar to see when I put it down. But the 2D version is up now, and the 3D version is coming out on Shudder on October the 27th. And I assume you'll be able to use regular old 3D glasses to watch that with. And on Netflix, we have quite a few new films out. Cabin Fever, Cube, Cube 2 and Cube 3 are now on Netflix. Horseman, Hostel 2, Most Haunted Season 1. It turned out that it was all a hoax. So, but it's on Netflix if you want to go see some found footage style stuff. And then also Hostel is now on Netflix. And so I mentioned on the first episode of Scream Stream how we were in the middle of a Saw marathon, and Hulu took all the Saw films off. So we ordered the DVD. It was a 7-film DVD. We got it for $7 on Amazon, brand new. Hell of a deal. And 2 days ago, I was on Netflix, and lo and behold, they added every Saw film on there after we had already bought the DVD. So, but we started up our marathon again. Today we watched 5 and 6, and I think maybe next weekend we'll watch 7. And then on October 27th, Jigsaw will be out in theaters, and we'll be ready for it. And I think I might do a full review of the entire Saw series, maybe next month sometime. We'll see how it goes. Doom is now on Netflix, and this was the film adaptation of the video game starring The Rock. And another film, an independent film called Raw. I really want to see this. If you haven't seen the trailers for it, I would suggest go looking those up. Raw is about a girl who, for whatever reason, decides that she wants to eat people. And so it's supposed to be a really disturbing film, and I can't wait to see it. And then, of course, Cult of Chucky is now on. And then one final thing, I do want to recommend some podcasts that I've been listening to. Both of these are commercial free on Shudder, but of course you can get them on Stitcher, iTunes, or not iTunes, now they call it Apple Podcasts. You can get it on Apple Podcasts. The first one is Deadly Manners, which is sort of like, it's kind of like Clue. If you like that movie, you will like this. And each episode, I think, is like 30 minutes long. It's narrated by LeVar Burton and stars Kristen Bell and David Cummings, who does the No Sleep podcast, and a bunch of other people. RuPaul's in it. Quite a few big names. It's kind of like a radio drama. And then we have Inside the Exorcist. And this guy is basically doing sort of like a documentary on how the Exorcist movie was made. It's going to be a 7-part series, and so far the first 3 parts are out. It's pretty cool. It's more of like a documentary style podcast, but I do recommend that you check it out, and those are my podcast recommendations. And finally, for next week's movie will be Noroi the Curse, and that is Noroi the Curse. And this is available on Shudder. It is a Korean horror film, I believe. I've been wanting to see this, and I never got around to watching it. So next week, that's going to be my review. Make sure you check it out before then. And that's going to do it for this episode of Scream Stream. I want to thank you for checking me out. Thank you for listening. If you are a new listener, I hope you enjoy the show. And remember that Scream Stream is listener supported, and you can support me through Patreon at patreon.com/ScreamStream. If you have a movie you'd like to review, you can go and join up on our Facebook group, and that's over at facebook.com/groups/ScreamPod, or you can email me screamstreamcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, TuneIn Radio. Subscribe to the show in all those places. I would greatly appreciate it. Music used for Scream Stream was created by Kevin MacLeod, and you can find Kevin over at incompotech.com. And until next week, I'm James Gass saying, if it was real, the cameraman would be dead too. Good night.